Welcome to Tea in the Dojo. This is episode number 8. I'm Sensei Jumoke. Today we're going through the Kyohan. This is our second episode. We're going to discuss the origins of naming karate and where the symbols and characters came from. And we also look at the meaning of the character kara, which is like empty in Japanese, and the idea of like karate being from coming from emptiness or being formless. I especially found this episode quite hard to really discuss. Maybe that's because the book is written in such a way that it doesn't need any further explanation. I'm not sure, but me and Chris definitely try and unpack and give our own like ideas and interpretations onto the meaning of what Funakoshi has written down in his book. I hope you enjoy it. Let me know your thoughts of what you think, if you disagree or agree with anything that we mention. If you'd like to add anything, we fully appreciate it. So grab your cup of tea and sit back and enjoy.
Hi everyone, welcome to episode 8 of Tea in the Dojo. My name's Chris and I'm here with Sensei Jumoke.
I was thinking about this. What was if we called you Karate Kid Chris?
Karate Cricket.
That sounds good.
I've never watched The Karate Kid.
Yeah,
Is
we
that,
talked about that.
that could be, so I don't know if that's like a nice thing to say or not.
And I think that's cool. You asked a question on our the Instagram story the other day with your headband on. And I was like, that's cool.
Yeah, okay,
Karate
okay.
Kid.
So check out our Instagram because we've been back and forth on the Instagram stories, haven't we?
Yeah, it's been really cool.
Yeah.
You sent me a good question on Saturday morning when I was eating my breakfast.
Yeah, okay.
I was like, yeah, go on then. And I was doing it in my front room. So
yeah, I didn't expect that response, which was about the front stance.
Yeah.
And so I was practicing and I just had a little question and I thought, I know what I'm going to do. I'll ask Sensei.
Yeah.
And you responded.
That was good. And I went into detail as well. Like
It was really useful. It was massively
And did you
useful.
practice and you felt like you were...
I practiced and it felt weird, which is always a good thing.
sign.
Yeah. It felt strange to do something differently. It was just about the way the foot lands with your front stance and how I would say it's difficult to get it consistent, but I didn't know which way was the way it was supposed to be.
Were you even thinking about it though?
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people... Boom.
Yeah.
Boom.
It came from a great Monday class though.
Okay.
That's what it
with
came
my mum.
from.
Yeah, okay.
Mama-san.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was brilliant.
Yeah.
It was, I was talking with her after the class and it was like a bit like Kiyoshi's classes.
Interesting,
which are brilliant as well. And it was, so basics. It was good to get back to basics after the holidays as well.
Yeah.
Very much required. And it's always humbling to realise or feel like your, say your Mai-geri or something, your front kick just isn't as good as you thought it was. And it's okay. Like it's okay for that to be the case.
Sure.
But so it's good to get back to basics. But I noticed that she had her way of teaching certain things and saying to think about this and certain cues.
Yeah.
Certain things to think about when you're performing certain moves, and so it was really good. But the way she over-exaggerated a front stance to show us how to do one properly was a new thing to me.
Okay.
And so I wouldn't say it necessarily confused me, but I was trying to do it at home and it didn't feel right.
Okay.
And so it's always good. Always ask your sensei if you're unsure.
Yeah, I think when you're doing it and it doesn't feel right, that allows you to then discover what is right.
Yeah.
If you're always used to just it feeling one way, you're not really going to go through that process of self-discovery.
Yeah. And well, also, because I passed my first grading, I might just continue on and pass gradings and do okay and have a problem, basically. You know, be doing something slightly incorrect, and I'd rather stop it before it becomes a habit.
Yeah, for sure.
And that sort of thing. So.
And I taught a class on Saturday, and it was not until like the high grade class, the purple belt and higher. That was the hardest class of the day because I was going through the same points on stance that I teach my white belts.
Yeah.
And I was telling them like how if they're not here to learn anything or get better, how can we move on to doing these advanced katas or more advanced techniques if we can't get our stance right?
Yeah.
And they've got the bad habits, and they're because they're on that belt level now. They think, yeah, it's all right. I'm good enough.
Yeah. And it's understandable. Like, why would you go back to the basics if you passed that grade in ages ago? So playing devil's advocate.
And I was just saying to Kiyoshi though, like Kiyoshi, you're good not because you have crazy moves, it's because you've got really good basics. And without your good basics,
yeah,
what are you? You know, if you can't do a stance but you want to do a flying kick, it starts from the stance.
Yeah. I think it was interesting as well that on the Wednesday class that you took, you just got us orange belts to just perform. I think we were just doing the front stance back and forth across the dojo.
Yeah.
And that was like, that was nervous. I was nervous because I wasn't too sure what you were, what the plan was.
Yeah.
And then obviously there were some higher grades there who were able to see lower grades perform, let's say admirably, not terribly.
And actually the biggest thing I was mentioning with the high grades is it's like the mindset, the willingness to learn and listen and like just take in new information and adapt, where they're stuck in their ways and they don't want to. And then I had my red belt, had Sahil in that class on the Saturday, and his stance was looking better than half of the others just because he's willing to actually apply himself.
Yeah.
Don't let the orange belts look better than you.
Yeah.
It's a mindset more
well,
than
yeah,
anything,
I know being one grade up now, if I see white belts doing things that are impressive and you say, yeah, they're really good, that's going to give me the kick that I need. I know that would work on me.
For some of them, they go, oh, Sensei don't like me. That's what they do, they crumble.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to do that. But yeah. This week at Zenshin, at the dojo, it's been a hectic week for me. My brother's on his honeymoon. He's in Ethiopia. He's having a great time. He's eating like loads of injera, loads of shiro. He's been feeding turtles. Yeah, he was on his like Instagram stories there, feeding turtles, which is crazy. I love turtles. Yeah. No, tortoise.
Okay.
On the land ones. Yeah,
okay.
Tortoises, and he's having a great time.
Living the life.
Yeah.
Getting back soon.
He is. He's got one more. He better be because it's killing me. But no, it's been good. And then my sister and my mum went up to Scotland to see my other sister perform in a ballet play because she's a ballerina. So it was just me and my dad on Friday and Saturday here. Okay. So from usual like 4 or 5 people, it went to 2.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah. So it was good. We handled it fine. It was a little bit busier than usual, but like it was good. And I think we worked good together.
Yeah.
It was all right.
Yeah, I've seen you work together. It's a good dynamic you have going on.
Yeah, it can be good. That's good. How about you then for this week? Anything amazing?
No, not really. As far as being in the dojo, it's having a break during Christmas and New Year. And then coming back into the dojo in the way that we did is quite humbling. And I realised that basically it's been a month-ish since my last grading, and that's a month that I probably haven't developed as quickly as I'd like to. Yeah. And I realised being white belt, I needed to reignite the excitement because when I was white belt, it was all very new and exciting, and I'd go home, pick up a book, pick up the Kyohan, look at the kata that I was next going to be studying, practice a lot in my living room, or at least a lot compared to what I've done perhaps over the last 4 weeks. So I need to, karate is still exciting to me, but I need to sort of be more conscious of it.
I'll be soon announcing that I'm giving out the letters for pre-grading and grading, so hopefully that will hook you up, because I don't want to give out the letters just to people for turning up. I want to see who's actually progressed in that time. Yeah. And that. Yeah. Cool. So.
But but the Kyohan.
Kyohan.
We're back here again.
We are back here because there's so much to get through, and I thoroughly enjoyed doing it last time.
Yeah. So a quick reintroduction of the Kyohan for anyone who maybe hasn't watched.
I have the cover this time.
Oh yeah.
Didn't have it last time.
So for anyone who didn't watch the last episode, go back and watch it because we're continuing on from there. But essentially, the Kyohan is it says the master text on the front of it by Gichin Funakoshi, who is the father of Shotokan Karate, which is one of the most widely adopted styles, I believe, and the style that we practice here at Zenshin as well. And it's essentially I describe it as the Karate Bible. It's a big book. It's got a lot. I don't say it's got a lot of words in it to put people off, but it's not just photos of people doing the moves. It's a lot more.
That's the nice thing, isn't it? He talks here about what it is, the meaning, the ideas, the development of it,
The origins.
Yeah, exactly. And then he kind of goes into the physical with some explanation. So it's a good way to get it right.
I believe he answers every question that you might have as a beginner, but also questions that you have as a karateka as well.
Yes.
So as you learn what karate is, there are more questions that come out. What if I do need to use? What if I? What if? And all of those are addressed in here, from what I can see. Anyway, from the master himself.
Oh, great! Should we get into it then?
Yeah, let's do it.
Should I read the first little paragraph and see if there's anything that sticks out?
Yeah.
So it says here. So we're reading from page 3, still in the introduction, and if you notice, we've got kara with one symbol and kara with another symbol. So one means in Chinese it's tang, and kong. Tang means like Chinese, like the Tang dynasty.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. And then the other one, the second character is kong, which just means empty.
Okay.
So in Japanese, they're both pronounced the same.
Okay, yeah.
So Karate-do is a martial art peculiar to Okinawa in its origins. Although it has in the past tended to be confused with Chinese boxing because of the use of tang in its earlier name, in fact, for the past 1,000 years, the study and practice of masters and experts, through which it was nurtured and perfected and formed into the unified martial art that it is today, took place in Okinawa. It is, therefore, not a distortion to represent it as an Okinawan martial art. Cool. So here there was, he already says that it's people confuse it with the Chinese boxing. And a lot of karate, or all of karate, does come from like Chinese martial arts. It was all, no, not all of it, that's wrong. But it was heavily influenced by at the time,
Yeah.
Another thing that sticks out to me is that it says it's a unified martial art. Now, like, what does that mean to you, it being a unified martial art? Do you
Unification. I guess it, to me, because it says it was nurtured and perfected and formed into the unified martial art that it is today. I guess that's Funakoshi just saying that he's happy that he's taken the good bits, stripped away the fluff that you might not need or that he doesn't think is useful, and it's good to go. That's his package sort of thing. He's happy with that. At the time, was happy with what was being practiced. I thought it was brilliant.
For me, because they were already studying their Okinawa Te at the time, and the Chinese influence came into it. They had things such as joint locks and throws and grabs and things like this. So then adding with the striking or whatever the Chinese influence gave, it became for me more of a wholesome or holistic martial art, rather than maybe just focusing on certain areas. I believe actually there was they called it like Okinawan wrestling, which was something they used to get into as well. So you know how we use the word like mixed martial art now? I feel like he's almost trying to touch on that, because at the time you would have had your judo and your aikido and this and that, and they kind of focused on certain areas.
Yeah.
I feel like he's trying to draw on the idea that they have been developing kind of a bit of everything into this, and to make it a unified martial art between all different aspects of the martial art.
Yeah.
That's what it would mean to me.
Yeah. Yeah. And in doing so, taken away from a predominantly Chinese martial art.
Yeah.
And is now specifically saying it's now an Okinawan martial art.
Yeah, exactly.
It's ours now, sort of thing.
Yeah, for sure. Wicked. So, next bit. One may ask why the character Tang has been retained for so long. As I discussed in the section, the development of Karate-do, I believe that at the time, the influence of Chinese culture was at its peak in Japan. Many experts in the martial arts traveled to China to practice Chinese boxing. With their new knowledge, they altered the existing martial art called Okinawa-te, weeding out its bad point and adding good points to it, thus working it into an elegant art. It may be speculated that they considered Tang an appropriate new name, since even in contemporary Japan, there are many people who are impressed by anything that is foreign. It is not difficult to imagine the high regard for anything Chinese that prevailed during that period in Okinawa. So, I mean, we've already kind of covered everything in here. Sandao is the Chinese boxing. When I was in China, I did a bit of this.
Okay.
Yeah, and to me, it felt I was a bit like ignorant when I went. It just felt like a bit of everything that I've already kind of done not everything I've already done. A bit of. It felt like kickboxing-y, Muay Thai, karate, fighting, grabbing. It was quite a complete way of fighting when I did it. I mean, I didn't study it super in depth, but it was good fun to do.
Right.
And so yeah.
Right.
So, like as you said, like that character they used, it would have been a way to show that, hey, this is our Chinese style. Do you know what I mean? And
I found that quite interesting.
Yeah.
That he says that Chinese was considered cool in Japan.
Yeah,
basically, and that's probably part of the reason that they retained Chinese characters.
Yeah, for
that's
sure.
that's how I understand it. I just find it fascinating that even back then it's like something foreign.
Yeah.
Probably
Even though I kind of consider them very similar, but to them, there's we're Japan. We're even using half the same characters.
Yeah.
But they're still cool. But I guess even then, like if we think like how like you'd have like a designer brand and put like Paris underneath.
Yeah.
Or like Milan.
London,
It suddenly becomes
New
London.
York. Yeah.
Exactly. Suddenly becomes like, and even though we're part of the same like Western culture, even a slightly different city somewhere else becomes automatically cool.
Yeah.
Birmingham, not so much.
Maybe one day.
Maybe one day. Yeah. So just focusing the importance of the Chinese culture to it, and actually it was almost a way to sell it as something, cool. If they just called it like the local or a new martial arts system, maybe people wouldn't have taken it as seriously. But having that like, oh, it's Chinese, the Chinese hand. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Especially in the way that information would have been travelling back then.
Yeah.
Because if you go to, let's say you went to another country completely foreign, I don't know, let's say Canada, and they were practicing this crazy fighting style, and you brought it back to England, and you said, I've got this crazy martial arts I want to teach you, I could just jump on the internet and actually verify, is that the case? And then I'll just learn off the Canadian guy on the internet, whereas back then, people going to China to learn it, coming back to Okinawa, developing it and saying that it's a Chinese martial art. It's called this Chinese name. This isn't Japanese.
Exactly.
And people are like, ooh, and they wouldn't verify that. They'd take your word for it, sort of thing, depending on who you were, I'm sure. But yeah.
So I think they wanted to then change that character from the Tang in Chinese, which means Chinese, to Kong in Chinese, which means empty. So, but they're both pronounced kara and kara. So when you write them down in Japanese, they didn't change how it sounded. It was still Karate-do, and they changed it just how it was written. And that was just so people now, rather than it seeing it as the Chinese hand way, it's now the empty hand way.
Yeah.
That's it. So cool.
Yeah.
Do you want to go into the next one, the next paragraph?
Yeah. So the meaning of kara. So the first connotation of kara indicates that karate is a technique that permits one to defend himself with his bare hands and fists without weapons. Second, just as it is the clear mirror that reflects without distortion, or the quiet valley that echoes a sound, so must one who would study Karate-do purge himself of selfish and evil thoughts, for only with a clear mind and conscience can he understand that which he receives. This is another meaning of the element kara in Karate-do.
Cool. That's good.
So that's pretty that's pretty philosophical, isn't it? Straight away. So obviously empty hand.
Yeah. Literally empty hand.
Yeah.
However, the clear mind and conscience, to me that is like having an empty cup. And if I wanted to fill my cup but it's already full, I can't learn anything. Yeah. And that's, we even mentioned this at the start of our talk today. My class on the Saturday, their cups are already full, so I can't even teach them about how to improve their stance because it's full to the brim. And in order to learn anything, we must first empty ourselves, mustn't we, in our mind and our conscience. Yeah, like he says.
Yeah. So he only touches on the fact that you can defend yourself with bare hands. That makes sense to me. But then that was a pretty new meaning, the empty mind as well, and to purge yourself of selfish and evil thoughts. That's pretty deep.
I think the bare hands bit as well is because if I didn't have bare hands, if I took a knife or sword, it suggests that I'm actively practicing something either to go to war with or to be an attacker. Yeah. Whereas if I have no weapons, if I have the empty, it's almost the peaceful way of trying to avoid stuff. And they go into this later, don't they? Yeah. So it's he's almost saying it's not here for warfare. It's literally for that average man that doesn't want to use weapons or doesn't even want to fight. Yeah.
And if you do want to fight with weapons, perhaps karate is not for you. Yeah. Sort of thing. Yeah.
Cool.
I'll read the next bit.
Yeah.
Next, he who would study Karate-do must always strive to be inwardly humble and outwardly gentle. However, once he has decided to stand up for the cause of justice, then he must have the courage expressed in the saying, even if it must be 10 million foes, I go. Thus he is like the green bamboo stalk, hollow, kara, inside, straight and with knots, that is, unselfish, gentle and moderate. This meaning is also contained in the element kara of Karate-do. Finally, in a fundamental way, the form of the universe is emptiness, kara, and thus emptiness is form itself. There are many kinds of martial arts, judo, kendo, sojitsu, bojitsu, and others, but at a fundamental level, all these arts rest on the same basis as Karate-do. It is no exaggeration to say that the original sense of Karate-do is at one with the basis of all martial arts. Form is emptiness, emptiness is form itself. The kara of Karate-do has this meaning.
Damn.
Yeah.
So, through being empty creates the form.
Yeah.
Is that the thing?
Emptiness is form itself.
Yeah. We say that we came from nothing, don't we? If you into the Big Bang, it's like there was nothing, and that nothingness created everything.
Yeah.
And I think it's a hard one to get into.
That's deep.
But he talks about like the basis of all martial arts is like from emptiness.
Yeah.
And like he talks into the sojitsu, bojitsu, judo, and kendo all come from the same idea of like emptiness.
Yeah. Yeah, the way I perceive it as well is that, along with other martial arts, is when you practice them, you are starting from a place of emptiness.
Mm-hmm.
And so obviously that's easy to understand if you are brand new to a martial arts, you don't know anything, and now you're learning things, but then I might look at myself and go, yeah, I've learned a lot, and so my cup is partway full, and then eventually it's going to be full, which is not, I don't want to say it's not a good way of thinking, but if I continue to think that I am empty and my cup is always empty, I'm always going to learn as if I was new, which is, you know, you take on a lot of information, you learn new things, and you're, I don't know, is there anything you've learned?
Well, maybe like over time we get a bigger vessel.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
And so it's just layers on layers on layers.
Yeah.
And you're about to ask me if there's anything I've learned.
Well, is there anything you've learned that you remember learning and you approach with a beginner's mindset because you're a beginner? Specifically, you know, what it's like to receive a lot of information and retain that information. Because I recall times when I've done something new, let's say for a day or a week, and it feels like there's a lot of information I've retained because of it, because I'm new to something, all of it. So when I started karate, I'd come home and be like, I learnt this thing today, I learnt this thing, and it feels like you've learnt 3 techniques or 3 or 4 or 5 things that I can write down. Whereas if I perceive that my cup is filling up over time, that I'm going to also think that there's less to learn.
Sure. I think that the levels, if you say the stance thing, you might now, after practicing your Zenkutsu dachi, you might be like, okay, I know, I understand the ideas behind how to move forward and back. I know how to be strong. But then from that, and the more that, maybe as my vessels got bigger, maybe as I progressed in rank or age or experience, I'm looking at like how I can maximize the speed going forward, what my hips do to influence that. Look at the way my knee bends. Look at the way my foot touches the floor, my body posture. So it's like I can look at the fundamental part of like the shape of the stance, but then there's like layers on layers on layers. And if you go home and go, yeah, I learned how to do a stance. That's it. I understand stance. That's where you're gonna go like flat.
Yeah.
But to then next week come and build on what you learn about that, and there's you can always go deeper.
Yeah.
I feel, and especially like using my body and the way my body works and how I generate power. We might think we get it, but like you could still learn more the more you go into it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But yeah, so it comes. I think we kind of summed it up there. It's come from a place of emptiness, and through that we can create anything we want.
Yeah, and just before that as well, it tells you how you should practice, basically.
Yeah.
And that you're always striving to be inwardly humble and outwardly gentle.
That's interesting. Inwardly humble and outwardly gentle. Okay.
Not 2 terms that I would link with practicing a martial art. Not even just karate, but any martial art, to be outwardly gentle. And you know, humility makes sense, but for it to be mentioned as well, that's, you know, be humble.
Yeah. To be outwardly gentle is an interesting one as well. That's not, to me, that's like the opposite of like asserting yourself, to be almost soft rather than trying to be like hard. And actually, Greg showed me because he's been reading The Way of My Life, another book by Funakoshi, and he's teaching his students, and he was saying to his students how they must practice to be, not to be strong, but to be weak, and they didn't quite understand what they meant by that. And I think he's kind of reinforcing it here, is that we need to try and be gentle rather than try and be overly strong.
Yeah.
Or like firm.
Yeah.
Whatever that means.
Yeah, which and then straight after it almost goes back to what I was saying about he answers questions then about what you think, if I'm going to be outwardly gentle, then what if I need to use karate like in real life? And then he says if you have decided to stand up for the cause of justice, then you must be courageous.
Yeah.
So the rather than thinking about using karate as a martial art, it's just be courageous, whatever that might mean, I guess, is up to you.
Yeah. That's interesting. Well, yeah, and then like even this next one is like even if it must be 10 million foes, I go.
Yeah.
So we're inwardly humble, outwardly gentle, but as soon as it's time to go, we're going.
Yeah.
Regardless.
Regardless. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. That's hard. That's true courage, I guess.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. To be sacrificial. Yeah.
Maybe the idea of being like outwardly gentle, is that because you're so comfortable with your surroundings that I don't need to put on a front of being hard? And is it the people that try and be hard and like firm or assertive, they're doing it out of maybe fear or some kind of insecurity? But to be gentle and soft is can almost allow everyone else to feel calmer. I'm thinking about the Kung Fu masters on the films. They're usually relaxed and they're meditating. They speak softly like this.
Yeah.
Is that true inner peace that that they've got through their martial art practice?
Yeah. I think it has to be. I think obviously humble and gentle are mentioned in the same sentence, but I feel like it's quite hard to be humble and not appear gentle on the outside as well. Sure. So if you are a good student, always, as in being humble, you will be outwardly gentle. But I would say I perceive karate and other martial arts as their practitioners being gentle, and perhaps I see it less in things like boxing, and things that are quite, in Western culture, you're not really taught to be outwardly gentle. Let's say it's not necessarily perceived as being a good thing. If someone says you're too gentle, that's not, that's not a nice thing.
You'll often hear my dad say this now, and we might be going off topic, but I feel like the trends or the fashions of martial art, because it goes through a cycle, and it's like almost like the mainstream. So in this Western society that we're thinking of, they're following the trends to not to be gentle or humble, to become harder and maybe I don't want to say to become more aggressive, but they're trying to fill something that they feel is lacking physically with themselves.
Yeah.
And I think my dad mentioned this in his episode number 5. How can I explain it in a good way? I just someone that does karate and that isn't into the trends of what that might mean is more likely to be humble and gentle. If I want to do any particular martial art because it's cool and because it's going to give me this image, perceived image, and then I can get these results, that isn't being humble or gentle about it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, when you said that, I straight away thought of Conor McGregor.
Okay, well, yeah, that's the kind of image I've got in my head.
The way he walks and talks is all about bravado and showing off, and he's someone who doesn't need to. He could very much be outwardly gentle if he so chooses.
It'd be more powerful, wouldn't it?
Imagine that next week he just switches up.
Yeah.
He
probably wouldn't earn him as much money if he was outwardly gentle, because I think
not.
people like the show of it, don't they? Like this.
Yeah.
But
and if that's what he's naturally like to a degree, then fair enough. But because he's a fighter, I think it can give the wrong.
But he's had a big fall from grace recently, hasn't he?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, I know he's got into a couple of scuffles with people.
Yeah.
He said some like not so cool things, and he ended up getting like beat in his last fight that I watched anyway. If he was humble, he would never have had anywhere to fall from.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody would have. Like, people were just waiting for his failure, sort of thing, because he'd put himself so high up, and that's now something he's got to deal with, essentially. But I think you get the feeling that since I've been looking at karatekas on Instagram and other social medias as well, you never get the feeling that any of them are trying to do anything other than be their best and be the best at whether that be katas or kumite or anything like that. They just training is their game, and then they show up, and whatever will be type thing. Sure. Rather than saying I'm going to win, it's I'm going to do my best.
That's another big part of it. Is I believe in either one of the precepts or something that a quote you can find is that it was never designed to be competitive. Karate is all about like you said, defending yourself, not getting into those situations, and as you said, to improve yourself, and not to be like, let's see who can do this better and that better, because that is probably again the opposite of being the humble and gentle, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because if I should, they talk about hopefully never even using it once in your life, your karate. So if every week we're at a competition trying to see who can win, you've kind of you haven't fully got the meaning of what it means to do true karate. And this is what these guys, when I say true karate, I'm using air quotations, because this is already a couple times we've come across what they talk about is true karate. In that first paragraph, he puts weighted upon spiritual rather than physical matters. That's what true karate is, according to Funakoshi, one of the masters. So,
do you think that if people practice karate and at their dojo they are sparring a lot, that is a bit of a red flag? Or the way I think of it is that perhaps before coming here I thought there was going to be a lot of sparring, and now through practicing and through reading the Kyohan, I realise that is perhaps a bold statement. Say that shouldn't be the case if it's true karate according to Funakoshi. But what's your take on it?
I wouldn't say it's a red flag. There are many sides to it. And I don't want to be the guy to say like, hey, what you're doing isn't true karate, because I know there's a 1,000 other people that will say that what we're not doing is true karate as well. So that's why I did it in the quotes, is that's what this guy's saying, but I guess another person's perspective could be just as valid. I think maybe the more important thing is, are they trying to give you the full picture of what we're doing? Is when it's to me, when it's all about, well, I'm thinking about someone like Krav Maga, which is like the Israeli, so like that's a martial art, I guess, and it's a strictly like a self-defense thing. Does that take away the power of it because they're just practicing for self-defense purposes? This is partly self-defense, this is partly spiritual, this is partly like combat. Does that make it more true? Probably wouldn't. It just depends why you come and why you pick this club over that. It's like, what are your own goals, rather than like what this person says about that. Yeah. So I don't want to say red flags. I think there are other big red flags that we kind of mentioned before, But yeah, it's just what you enjoy.
Yeah.
And maybe you do go to one club and you're doing loads of sparring. That's cool. And maybe that isn't what necessarily you're looking at. And I think you could still do true or good karate and go to a different club and do something different.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just I guess how it's packaged, I'd say, for me. I mean, I feel like we've come to the end of like a section. I know the next part, the way from techniques, is in bigger writing here. So I feel like we're moving on to a slightly next section.
Yeah.
We can leave it there. This has been hard.
Yeah.
This is hard.
Yeah.
But this is why it's good that we get some other ideas and put you guys to comment and to give suggestions on what you think the meaning of Kara means, the emptiness, the Kong.
I'm interested to hear what people think they might have to stand up for. So if you are a karateka and you imagine yourself standing up for the cause of justice, what does that mean in 2020 in this day and age, basically? Because I've got my ideas. But I'd like to hear what everyone else thinks, because I guess the one thing with this text is that it was a different time and place.
It was, yeah.
And so there's some translation and some things that you have to bear in mind with it that that are important to think over and mull over about before you might write them off straight away or anything like that. You know, what does it mean to be inwardly humble and outwardly gentle in this day and age? And also, what does it mean to be courageous?
At the same time, to be courageous, yet to be humble and gentle.
Yeah.
Wow, this book goes deep.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
We'll get past the introduction.
Yeah, one day.
This year, probably.
But there's another page, and we spent a good 40 minutes or so.
Yeah.
So I think the next time we will move on to, it's more about the development, and it also goes into the meaning and how a karateka should be, and a bit more of the history, the value of it.
Yeah, and continues to answer some questions as well.
Yeah.
About what perhaps is not the right thing to do and the right thing to do again. And a bit more history. That would be good.
Wicked. Cool. So this has been, we have been Tea in the Dojo. We've been reading Kyohan. Get the book, I recommend it. If you are doing karate, you're studying it, whether you're a white belt or a black, anywhere in between, it's a great read. You can learn a lot from it.
Yeah.
And just as a bonus, it does have like all the katas as well.
Yeah.
And it has like, it's wicked.
Yeah. So, if you're thinking like, gosh, that seems a bit heavy for me, I want to learn some practical stuff. That is I'd say that's actually the bulk of the book, isn't it? Which is fantastic.
The first is that 14 pages is just about all the mental stuff you need to know, and then the rest of it is physical stuff.
Yeah.
With some annotations and stuff. But
we'll put a link to that in the description. Wherever you're watching this, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and all the rest of them, I'm sure.
Yeah. We've been doing more on Instagram as well, so follow us there at t.in.the.dojo.
Yeah. Or search for Tea in the Dojo. Just search for Tea. I think if you Google Tea in the Dojo, you'll find all the social links. Otherwise, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, as you said. If you're listening to this, check out the video version on YouTube as well.
Yeah. We've been doing lots of stories as well, which I think are pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I had to go at a post or two last week, and you've been doing your quotes as well. So we're trying to develop that more. So to follow the culture, our learning process and experiences.
Yeah.
That the Instagram is pretty cool at the moment.
Yeah, I think it's just if you're a karateka, it just nurtures it a bit to that's the whole point of the posts. It's just to remind people if they're at work, if they're doing things during the day, And you're guilty of loading up social media when you've got a few seconds on your phone, as I definitely am. It's just a quick reminder. Oh yeah,
Exactly.
I'm a karateka.
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah.
Wicked. So until next time, drink more tea.
Drink more tea. Take care.
What a mind-boggling podcast. That's a good discussion. I did enjoy it with Chris. And I did learn a lot, and it is good to delve deeper into the meaning of these things and to really kind of understand karate in the wider context of martial arts. If you enjoyed it, please give us a like. You could subscribe, follow us on Instagram. You could comment as well and let us know your thoughts. We are available everywhere. Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher. We're on Instagram and Facebook as well, and on YouTube if you like to watch. So next episode we are doing stuff about journaling, and that should be another good podcast. So look out for that in the coming week. Until then, drink more tea. Thank you for watching.